All right, thank you.
Breaking Down the Law is sponsored by Battle-Born Injury Lawyers.
Well, Governor Sisolak signed a bill into law giving legal protections to certain businesses against COVID-19 related lawsuits. But there's been some pushback from those who aren't covered. Well, joining us with more about the law and how it could impact all of us is Matt Hoffmann with the Battle-Born Injury Lawyers. So a lot to get to, Matt, so let's get right to it. First question here. Does this law protect businesses from all liability if someone claims that they got COVID-19, for instance, at that place of business?
And I think that's a good question. I think it's the biggest confusion on the bill. So no, it doesn't give immunity to any business from lawsuits. What it does is it gives a heightened standard of gross negligence to certain businesses that fit within the bill. So basically it's like this. They say that if you are in substantial compliance with the controlling health guidelines for your industry, so you're cleaning, you got social distancing, masks, you're doing everything right. If you're doing that, then anybody who claims to have gotten COVID at your facility must prove gross negligence. Now, what's funny about that is that if you can prove that you're in substantial compliance, it's impossible to prove gross negligence. I mean, by your very nature, you're not grossly negligent, you met the standards. So the bill, in effect, does give basically immunity as long as you're documenting and showing that you're in substantial compliance. And it doesn't cover everyone. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But, I'm never in favor of immunity bills. I mean, if we had immunity and, no jury trials, we'd be driving exploding Pintos. I mean, you got to have some kind of responsibility for these companies. But I think that the point of this law is to try to, primarily with casinos, to get businesses reopened and to give them confidence that they're not going to be bogged down by claims of people that, hey, I got COVID at your facility. Now, the bill, though, I mean, from a lawyer's perspective, is a bit unnecessary, and here's why. Like a nursing home who are exempt from this, that's one thing. You're living there. Proving that you got COVID while there could be somewhat easy to prove. But for the majority of businesses, if you want to sue and say, I got COVID while I was at your restaurant, think of the myriad of questions that would come from that. I mean, where were you outside of the restaurant? Do you live with children? Where were the children? Do you live with a spouse? Where does the spouse work? I mean, proving that you got COVID-19 at a specific facility is incredibly difficult. And I don't know that a lot of lawsuits would come from this. But the practical result is that I think this is going to give a lot of businesses a lot of confidence to reopen more aggressively. And I think we'll see the casinos marketing much more aggressively as a result of this.
Well, I want to go back to something you alluded to earlier in terms of pointing out, and we've reported on this as well, which businesses are protected under law and which are not.
Okay, so and nursing homes are not. Basically, healthcare providers, hospitals are not. Outside of UMC, that's a government hospital, or county hospitals, they are protected. But hospitals are not, nursing homes are not, long-term care facilities, intermediate care facilities, skilled nursing facilities, and the like. The Clark County School District is not protected by this, and that one's kind of interesting. They're not having classes anyway, but they're not protected by this, but Clark County School District is part of the government, so there's already a hard cap on what you could get for damages anyway. Meanwhile, private schools, whether for-profit or if they're a nonprofit, they are protected from liability or the gross negligence standard under this law. And the one that gets really lost in this is charter schools. They're not quite part of the Clark County, so there's no cap, but they don't qualify to be protected by the bill. So they're really caught in the middle. But healthcare providers are not protected from this, with the reasoning being that if anybody knows the health standards, it's them. So it's a pretty narrow group not included, and this protects many, many businesses. And I think the biggest one and the point of the bill was casinos.
Well, Matt Hoffmann, as you do it every Wednesday, breaking it down for us on the very relevant issues that ultimately impact all of us. Hey, we appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll see you next Wednesday.